Just in relation to firstly the domestic violence, obviously, like we've spoken about this a number of times, that the increase during the pandemic, or maybe actually it was just that it was highlighted more during the pandemic. And I do understand and was very welcome that additional funding was ring-fenced for that, and particularly in relation to helplines operated by Women's Aid and the Dublin Rape Crisis Centre just before Christmas. So I'm just wondering, do you see that funding continuing? From your discussions with that sector, do they feel that that's adequate funding? Obviously, do they need increases? And just your comments in relation to that, because I think probably for the first time in a very long time in general in Irish society, we're a lot more, people have been a lot more educated around domestic violence, and the kind of highlighting it, how to identify it, maybe how to identify if a friend or if a family member is in need. So it would be great, I suppose, if we could see that funding continue. The other two areas are just, one is around ECCE, and just, I suppose, children with disabilities. Do we have an idea of the amount of children at present that are availing of the AIM programme? Is that something that you see is working? Like, are we seeing an increase in children with a disability due to AIM coming into the system, or do we need to look at that? And just a quick point as well in relation to, it's come up a number of times by people, is there any possibility, I suppose, given the lockdown of last year and now of this year, of any additional time for children under ECCE? I know there is the overage exemption, but would there be, I suppose, an exception made regarding just COVID and the impact of that? Is there a possibility for that? And then finally is just in relation to subhead D, positive actions for gender equality. And obviously we're in the evaluation period of the 2017 to 2020, the National Strategy for Women and Girls. And just in relation to, has there been a second, like has that successor begun, a successor to that strategy, has it begun? Or I suppose just your opinions on that, just given that very much, I suppose, in the last number of weeks, there's been a lot of discussion around, gender equality and various things around International Women's Day, and just the reality, I suppose. Again, we're probably learning, and it's been highlighted a bit more, and it would be good to kind of to keep kind of building on that work, I suppose. Just your opinions on that for a new strategy, in terms of, we're obviously in the period where the 2017 to 2020 has ended. So just those are my comments. If you want to come in on those, Minister, and then I'll just bring in other members that have indicated as well. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Chair. Yeah, I'll take those. So on DSGBV, yeah, we secured a very significant increase in DSGBV funding from the significant increase. So we got additional money going to TUSLA, and TUSLA then allocated a very significant additional funding there. So 2.7 million additional core funding was provided. So bringing the core funding for the DSGBV area up to 28 million, and then an additional 2 million COVID contingency for this year, considering the particular pressures that you identified that DSGBV services are under, occasioned by COVID, was also provided. I would like to continue to grow the amount of funding that we provide on a capital level to DSGBV services. You're absolutely right. I think as a country, as a nation, one of the very few benefits of COVID has been to lift the lid on the levels of DSGBV taking place across the country. And I think we have to respond to that, and respond through the provision of services. I think we also have to respond through the provision of other means as well. As you know, there's a review of accommodation going on at the moment that TUSLA is undertaking at the moment. That will be coming in towards the I think April, May. We'll be getting the result of that, and I think that will be very important in terms of guiding our future investment in infrastructure around the country. I'm very conscious that it's difficult to get capital funding for DSGBV, new DSGBV locations, new services, and that's certainly something that I want to look at As you know, there's a wider audit of responsibility for DSGBV services across all government departments and agencies. That's something we committed to in the programme for government, and that's been led by Minister McEntee, but I've been feeding in on that as well. And then, Chair, as you know, work is ongoing on the provision of paid domestic violence leave and benefit, recognising that poverty is often one of the lead factors that is a barrier to someone fleeing a situation of domestic violence. And if we can provide some sort of paid leave so people can escape these situations, it would be hugely beneficial. But to get back to the core of your question, yes, I want to see the continued increase in current expenditure, and I'll continue to engage with the sector. I've met with many of the groups since I've become Minister. I've met with Safe Ireland on a number of occasions, met with Dublin Rape Crisis Centre and others. So, and I'll continue my engagement on those points. As regards then ECHE, I think, and AIM, look, I think we've seen AIM has been an incredibly successful programme. That's why we've been able to put in an additional 3.6 million into it this year to broaden it out. I think after 3 years of AIM being up and running, we're going to do, I suppose, a root and branch review of it. But certainly the sense is that it's been an extremely successful programme, and it's one that obviously provides specific benefits to a wide range of children and allows them access the ECHE programme. Personally, I'd love to be able to see if we could provide supports for children accessing early learning and care outside of the ECHE format as well, and that's certainly something I'd like to look at. But look, I think AIM is something we want to continue to grow, and as I say, that's why we provided additional funding to it this year. The issue of an additional third year in ECHE for children is a difficult one, Chair. As you know, we've engaged very extensively with the NDA, the National Disability Authority, on the wider question of the early age exemption, and they've always been very clear in their official guidance to us that children leaving childcare settings and going into the primary setting should do so with their kind of peer group, with their age group. So they basically said, unless there's very, very, very exceptional circumstances, that transition, and I think we all know the importance of transitions, that transition should go with a year group, and that hasn't changed in light of COVID. So we're not looking at a large scale provision of a third year of ECHE at this particular point. Then moving on to the National Strategy for Women and Girls, and I'm chairing a meeting of that in the next 2 weeks, the second meeting of the steering committee. Look, I think that has been extremely important in influencing government and policy. We published a very significant piece of research from it, the research paper on period poverty recently, and that's been able to at least I think provide a context of discussion on the issue of period poverty in the Shannon, where there's a number of private members and number of pieces of legislation being addressed as regards the provision of period products across state agencies. As you probably know, I recently issued a directive to all direct provision centres, directing that they provide free period products to everybody in direct provision. So I think that's just one example of the success of the National Strategy for Women and Girls. But in the course of this year, we will be reviewing that strategy and looking to bring forward a successor strategy, kind of focusing on many of the areas that it highlighted, the kind of leadership role of women in politics, in other areas of business and society as well, and looking to continue the progress that has been made so far. So, Chair, I think have I covered your 4 points there?
Yeah, that's everything. Thanks.